We're getting a better idea of what's in President Donald Trump's first full budget proposal for 2018.
Here are some of the highlights. It calls on Congress to spend $4.1 trillion next year, a little more than what's being spent this year. It calls for a $717 billion increase in spending over 10 years. Most notably, border security was getting a 10% boost, with $1.6 billion being set aside for a border wall. It cuts $800 billion from Medicaid and $272 billion from welfare programs. The proposed budget does not touch Medicare or core Social Security benefits.
The big cut that has a lot of our local lawmakers concerned, defunding the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. It helps fund programs to protect the Great Lakes. That program was launched in 2010 by Senator Debbie Stabenow. 24-hour News 8 political reporter Rick Albin is here now, joined by Senator Stabenow. Rick?
And as you know, Susan Bryan, this is the same conversation we had earlier in the year when that interim budget was passed. Senator, you were able to keep that money in place then. I now know you have a bipartisan effort with Great Lakes senators and members of the House, Republicans and Democrats. Right. What are your odds to keep it in for this next budget?
Well, Rick, as stopped the cut for the current year's budget because so many people got involved. Thousands of people came to my website, shared their stories, emailed, phone called, and so on, which is what it's going to take again. It's even worse now, though, because completely zeroing out any of the funds to protect the Great Lakes, and they go in and zero out conservation programs in the Farm Bill that also help us with water runoff efforts that we're doing in the St. Joe River, for instance, in southwest Michigan. So it's unbelievable. It's an all-out assault on protecting our water. So we need everybody engaged. We do have the Great Lakes senators involved, but it's really quite stunning.
And when you talk about that Farm Bill, that was something you were instrumental in getting passed as well, including those provisions for good stewardship of the land, that combined with this Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. The total dollar amount in this budget would look like a rounding error if it wasn't so vitally important to this big repository of water, because I guess what I'm getting at, it's $300 million for the Great Lakes Initiative out of a budget this big, not a lot of cash.
Right. No, it's not, but it sure has a lot of impact, as you know. We have 20% of the world's fresh water surrounding us. We know what it means in terms of our quality of life, boating, fishing, hunting, swimming. I can go right around Michigan and point out beaches that have been cleaned up, bacteria eliminated, not counting the challenges with zebra mussels and the fight on Asian carp. I mean, there's so many things that we use these funds for, and if we're not paying attention, we're not continuing to monitor the water, we'll take steps backwards. So this is a moment for Michigan. We need all hands on deck.
Got about 30 seconds left, Senator. Give me your over-under. It's an unsettled time in Washington, but this is a bipartisan issue for many people around the lakes. What's your gut feeling about keeping this money in next year's budget?
Well, my guess is that we will keep some. My worry is that this administration will say, well, how about half of it? How about only a 50% cut? That would still be very, very devastating to us. So what we need is the full authorized amount that we put in place on a bipartisan basis. It's what we need to monitor, protect, and clean up the beaches and the water and deal with invasive species.
Senator, thank you as always for your time. We'll continue this conversation next week on Mackinac Island. Thank you very much.